Hello. Hey, everybody. Welcome to Stronger Together. I am Dr. Kathleen Walls, and I am here with.
With who? With who? Hey, hotel family, Brother Ed Umoja.
So, how are you doing today, Brother Moja?
Oh, I'm doing interesting, okay. My wife gave me some
Interesting.
stuff to
Okay.
do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I had to go move the ship.
Okay. Oh, you just starting out already. For those who are joining us,
It
please
almost,
be
it almost,
sure
it
to.
almost dropped. It almost went over.
It
Over.
almost
So I had
went
to.
over.
Yes, I had to move the ship.
Uh-huh. I got all types of messages about the ship. For people who are joining us, please be sure to say hello in the chat room. Let us know where you're joining us from. If you have any questions, you can go ahead and put them in the chat. We will try to get to them. We are excited to be joining you this evening with this topic, but I'm going to let Brother Moja open us up with the way that he always opens
Uh,
up anytime he speaks publicly. So you go right on ahead.
well, first and foremost, I greet everyone in the name of God and our ancestors, in whose footsteps we most humbly walk. It is truly an honor and a pleasure to be here and to share what the Most High have given us to share.
Mm-hmm. All right. Why do you choose to open up like that all the time?
Oh, she started the questions already. Boy, I tell you.
Everybody gets
Well,
it.
well, this is greet. I greet you in the name of God and our ancestors. Is
Mm-hmm.
to give homage and acknowledge the Most High, no matter what religious practice you have. I say the Most High.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm acknowledging that entity in my life,
Mm-hmm.
and then I'm acknowledging the ancestors, all those who came before me, who have some of them paid the ultimate price so we could be here. So a lot of
Mm-hmm.
them, were disrespected physically, mentally,
Mm-hmm.
and they they did it. They took it so we don't have to take it.
Mm-hmm.
And so
Mm-hmm.
by honoring God and the ancestors in whose footsteps I most humbly walk, I humbly walk in that path that those mostly for us, for people of African descent, we know what happened to Maafa, over
Mm-hmm.
300 years of enslavement of our ancestors. And
Mm-hmm.
so we are here because they survived. A lot of them did
Mm-hmm.
not survive. And
Mm-hmm.
those who did, so we are the survivors or the survivors,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And
Right.
so I don't take that lightly because when we read the history, we know of so many of them who willingly took their lives so they would not be enslaved.
Mm-hmm.
We know those who died during the passage from Africa to here.
Mm-hmm.
So we are truly blessed to be here because we are the seeds of the survivors.
Mm-hmm.
So I humbly walk in their footsteps.
Mm. Well, just come on now and just drop it all. You just gonna make me shake a tambourine for you from jump.
well, you asked the question. I'm just
I
answering
sure
it.
did. You just gave a good, thorough answer. No, and it's of course, it's ironic that you brought up the Mayafa as tonight's topic. I said we're going to talk about relationships, right? And we're going to talk about the ships within the relationships because so many things get in the way or
Mhm.
are a part of. I don't want to say they get in the way. I want to say they're a part of relationships. In the work that I do, people are regularly saying, I want to be in a romantic relationship, or children that I work with, I want to have friendships, people in business relationships. So,
Mhm.
relationships are a large part of most of our lives, right? Not everyone wants a relationship of some sort, but a lot of us do enjoy being in relationships and or want to learn how to navigate and have healthier relationships. And so as I thought about that, I started thinking about how many words end with ships that are part of the relationship. And so I picked five for tonight. And there's probably many, many more, but the five that are within
Oh boy.
relationships are friendship, partnership, companionship, ownership, and leadership. And for people who are just joining us, anybody that knows me and knows the type of podcast that I do, you need to make sure you have a pen and a piece of paper or a book so you can grab some notes. Of course, you can always catch the replay. But there's going to be something said in this time that we're together that catches your attention, and you want to make sure you get it down. So, Brother
Hey,
Moja, go ahead.
I missed two of them. You said friendship, partnership, leadership, and what was the other two I missed?
Companionship
Uh-huh.
and ownership.
And ownership. Okay.
And welcome to everyone who's joining us. If you have an opportunity to put in the chat where you're joining us from or just say hello, please do so. Before the show even began, Brother Moses said, "Wait, I got to get my pad and my pen." So he even knows. Look,
Yeah, you see, family, this is real. This is real. You see, she had five. I didn't know what five she came with, so I had to I had to write them down. And for those who are listening, Dr. Wells, we should definitely let them know we do not practice before we come on air.
no, we do
Okay,
not.
this is real. This is like you're up close in person. You're getting it raw.
That's
And
right.
so when she said the five, I wrote three down, right, trying to keep up with her talking.
Uh huh.
And I missed two. All I know is she told me about the topic, and she said, "Well, be ready." And I looked at her like, and I didn't say it, but I'm like, "I'm always ready."
Yeah, that's exactly
And,
what you looked at.
and you know why I looked at you like that?
Why, darling?
Why, darling? I looked at you like that because I truly believe that we do this podcast
Mm-hmm.
from a spiritual perspective.
Mm-hmm.
And I go, as you know, I pray several times throughout the day.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you told me the topic, I was like, yeah, okay, that's what's supposed to happen. It's what's going to happen. So
Mm-hmm.
if I believe in the Most High, then when you gave it to me, the Most High had me ready already. I was ready, ready.
Mm-hmm.
So I
Mm-hmm.
was like, okay, because what am I going to do? I mean, for me, if I truly believe in the essence of the Most High and you give me the topic, you pick the topics, I'm like, well, I believe you believe in the Most High. So this is what we're supposed to do. And if I am prepared because Spirit prepared me.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, yeah, okay, let's go.
And I figured that's what you would say, but I wanted to give you
Ay, ay, ay.
but I wanted to give you at least some germination time, right?
Ah,
Because we know as things marinate, more information comes to us. Yes, we are given divine downloads and insight very much in the moment. And then we also are given opportunities to think about things ahead of time and to really flesh them out. And so what are just some of your initial thoughts when you look at these words when you thought about this topic?
well, I'm just looking at the words for the first time. Like I said, we didn't. I just heard them when you said them. When you
Mhm.
told me about relationship, I was like, the word ship, you know, has such a wide range of energy to it.
Mhm.
And so when we put that word ship into something, we understand what a ship is.
Mhm.
A lot of us should understand the science behind a ship, why it doesn't sink.
Mhm. Mhm.
Okay. So when we look at the science on how they build a ship and why it does not sink, and
Mhm.
then whatever you put in front that word is now
Mhm.
becoming part of that
Mhm.
word. So if you put friendship in front of it, or relationship in front of it,
Mhm.
or partnership in front of it, that means that word in front of it will not sink because the ship is
Mm.
going to keep it afloat.
Mm. I know some
So,
people are like, "Oh, okay, wait a minute, they going there tonight." Yeah, we
oh,
here.
she funny. Well, you picked the topic. I didn't.
I
No.
this is what I was given for us to talk about. So go
Oh, okay.
ahead.
No, because um, you know, I'm gonna say this. I'm gonna take some of my life
Mhm.
and put. I grew up, as you know, so what some people would call uneven or broken family because my dad was an abusive alcoholic, right?
Mhm.
I don't I people who know me, I talk about it all the time because I want people to see they are survivors, children who survive, and we can make it, we can be better, we can
Mhm.
be great. We don't
Mhm.
let that stuff. That's why I talk about it.
Mhm.
In the process of growing up, I I could remember how many times my mom told me I love you.
Mhm.
Okay. I could remember how many times my dad said he loved me.
Mhm.
My dad usually said it when he was intoxicated.
Mm.
So, and I always think about that. My mom said it to me, maybe I could remember 3 times in growing up, my mom said it to me.
Mhm.
And so as I got became an adult, I understood why it was so difficult for my mom to say because of the challenges she went through.
Mhm.
And so I made a conscious decision when my son was born 33 years
30.
ago
Mhm.
to make that word have power in my relationship with him.
Mhm.
And so when you talk about relationship,
Mhm.
to say to my son all the time, I love you,
Mhm.
was to make sure that word was part of our life growing up.
Mm. Mhm.
Okay, so he understood, and even today, and you know, you've been around me and my son.
Mhm.
We be on the phone, and when we get ready to get, we always say, "I love you,"
Mhm.
and he says it right back to me.
Mhm.
Because I made a conscious decision in the relationship I had with my
Mhm.
son to make
Mhm.
sure I empowered the words that's in that ship.
Mhm.
So for us as
Hmm.
parents, as adults, whatever you put into your relationship, whatever words you put
Mhm.
in there, if you put the word "I love you," if you say "I hate you," if you say "I want more money" and stuff, and so you're
Mhm.
looking at that relationship you're having with those words that you're speaking.
Mhm.
That ship is going to keep those words afloat. So
Mm.
we have to be very mindful of those words we say
Mm.
and how we use them. Because
Mhm.
I also made a conscious decision, as you know, my younger brother and I haven't seen each other since 2005 when we buried our mom.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
last month I was the first time I saw him since 2005.
18 years.
And you were there with the camera taking pictures, and we didn't know we were going to start crying and stuff like that.
Right. Right.
But that's what happened. It's just that, and I made a conscious decision. I told him that the other day when I was speaking to him. I said, from that day I saw him, and I made a conscious decision, and I prayed to him. I said, I will not let a week go by without me contacting him. Either we text each other or
Mhm.
we call each other because
Mhm.
that is not what my mom would have wanted to see on a relationship with her children.
Mhm.
And I also put in when I speak to him now. I always when we leave, when I get ready to hang the phone, I say, "Yo, man, I love you."
Mhm.
Because I start as an adult now, as an elder, I'm starting to understand more and more and more the power of the words that I speak
Mhm.
and how it affects the people around me.
Yeah.
And you know that because I tell you all the time, thank you so much for all the support you give me. And
Mhm.
sometimes I tell you, I stop myself and I come and tell you, thank you.
Mhm.
Because
Mhm.
in the relationship, we have a partnership.
Mhm.
So in our companionship.
Mhm.
So I think when you pick the topic, it was like, okay, it's time to talk about
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
for me. And so, as an elder and as a black male,
Mhm.
and I know there are people listening to me,
Mhm.
and if there's other males, especially black males, listening to me, it's just like we have to do a better job
Mhm.
of the relationship we have with the words in our community.
Mhm.
I mean, the
Mhm.
women have been doing a fantastic job, and I think, and there are men who are doing a great job. Don't get me wrong, I do know that, but we have to step up the game because
Yep.
there's things happening in our community that we have to step our game up. And I think we men, and I'm glad to see a lot of men that's coming forward. One of the things that really puts joy in my heart when I'm around outside is when I see fathers walking around with their children,
Mhm.
black men walking,
Mhm.
especially black men walking around with their
Mhm.
children. And
Mhm.
and I always smile when I see that because I didn't have that growing up because my dad was
Mhm.
an abusive alcoholic.
Mhm.
The only time he was nice is when he was when he was intoxicated,
Mhm.
and I'm like, and I think about that today. But So I didn't have that much growing up. So when my son was there, when I had my son, that was a big part of my life. I made a conscious, I made a deal with God. And I told my son this several times. I made a deal with God with my son. When I was in the birthing center with my son, I told God, I said, if you give me the abilities to take care of this child, I'll never turn my back on him. And I
Mhm.
have kept that deal. I have kept my part of the deal, and God has kept
Mhm.
his part of the deal.
Mhm.
So, so relationships, I think, is very important. That word ship, we have to be very mindful of
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, I'm glad that you said it. For those of you who are just joining us, welcome to Stronger Together, where we are looking at the ships inside relationships. And the word ship, Brother Umoja was breaking it down as being a vessel that carries things, right? And it's not a small vessel, it's a big vessel, right? A ship is not a boat, a canoe, or a kayak. It is a
Mhm,
large vessel that moves
mhm,
a lot, whether it moves a lot of people, moves a lot of cargo. And so we have to be mindful of what is in that ship. And when I was given this topic, as I looked at the relationships, I started thinking about what are the various aspects within relationships. And those were the 5 words that came up: friendship, partnership, companionship, ownership, leadership. And so, as you talked about, right, what are we making sure is in our relationship? And this show was called Stronger Together because we recognize that yes, we are great and fantastic individually, but when we come together, we're stronger together. And so now, if we become more conscious about what we are putting in our relationships and making sure that it's healthy and it's tended to. So I always share that when we first started dating, one of the things that you said to me was we have to make sure that we assess each other every season because energetically we change every
mhm,
season. And I
mhm,
had never thought about that. And even though I've given tons of homework to couples and families and so forth, I had never thought about the way in which our energy shifts throughout the season. And I know since November has come on, I have talked with so many people who have mentioned how tired they are. And right here in the Northeast, we that's hibernation time, but the weather has been shifting. And
mhm,
so it's throwing people's, and then of course we had daylight saving time, and that threw people's internal clocks off. The weather is throwing off temperature and things like that. I mention all of that because if we are in a relationship with each other, it's important that that self-awareness about how the environment is impacting you and your energy is impacting you will in turn
mhm.
impact the way in which you interact with your partner, with your friends, with your companions, and so forth. Go ahead, Brother Moja.
Wow. I mean, you said a lot there. You know, I think one thing for me that I'm very mindful of is the seasons.
Mm-hmm.
Being the grandson of a farmer, I learned a lot from my grandfather,
Mm-hmm.
and and also I grew up with my grandfather for the first 7 years of my life, and we see how farmers, the traditional. I mean, say traditional because things are changing constantly now. The
Mm-hmm.
traditional farmers, how they move with they used to use the almanac, and they knew when to plant, when not to plant,
Mm-hmm.
what to plant, and
Mm-hmm.
how to rotate their soils,
Mm-hmm.
rotate their fruits and what they were planting,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because they understood that the earth changed with the seasons.
Mm-hmm.
We see it we see it with the animals, but for some reason, a lot of us do not incorporate that into our life.
Hmm.
We feel that we don't stop and think about what is the earth doing to us in the summer season. What is the earth doing to us in the fall season?
Mm-hmm.
And it does impact our lives. It does
Big time.
make us. It does, and a lot of us don't stop and think about it. We fight it. We fight it,
Yeah.
and to our
And just
detriment. Go ahead.
And no, I was just going to say, and just to the point, I know some of us do because clinically, we're often led to when people talk about feeling sluggish, having difficulty getting up in the late fall, winter season, we're looking at things like seasonal affective disorder, right? Which is impacted by the amount of sun that someone's
Mhm,
receiving. And so there's many times where I will prescribe, so to speak, but encourage people, recommend that they get a sun lamp and see how that impacts them. I know there are some people who have attempted to move to the north, but the fall and winter is too gray for them, and they need to go down south so that they're getting more sunlight. So we do have reminders
mhm,
that our energy changes from a again from a clinical perspective. A lot of times people think that suicide is higher in the wintertime because of the depression that people feel. And in actuality, springtime historically has been when there have been more suicides because people finally have the energy to do it.
mm. Wow.
And so, right. So, us paying attention to how our energy changes throughout the season individually is so important because then, of course, it's going to impact the way in which one relates to another person. Go ahead.
Yeah. No, we see that in almost in this time of the year. It's kind of interesting to me. I always sit back and I analyze this time of the year in the season we're going into Thanksgiving and Christmas,
Mhm.
and you see people who are not even Christians,
Mhm.
how this time of the year, the energy that's out there, how the
Mhm.
energy affects them. If people are in the
Mhm.
more of a giving, they get into this giving season of
Mhm.
themselves.
Mhm.
And I always smile about it. I said we have people who are not Christians who are falling into it because the energy is real. This
Mhm.
energy is very real, and you have so many people in that energy cycle. It
Mhm.
affects those even though they're not Christians.
Mhm.
Okay, and I
Mhm.
smile about it, and I said to myself, the energy, spirit is my teacher, Grandmaster Came always said, spirit is real,
Mhm.
and he always tell me, tell the energy what to do.
Mhm.
Tell the energy what to do. And it took me a while for me to understand what he was trying to tell me is that we're all made of, and everything has energy in it, and the
Mhm.
energy is there waiting for us to guide it.
Mhm.
And so I find myself a lot of times, like even though now I hurt my shoulder, I'm always
Mhm.
working on it. I'm always like focusing the energy into my shoulder and
Mhm.
to get it, and it's been getting better and better. But
Mhm.
we have to be very mindful that energy is real,
Mhm.
and sometimes when we tell our children you put your children on timeout and you tell them take deep breaths, relax.
Mhm.
You're actually showing your child how to bring the energy down
That's right.
and,
That's
and,
right.
and, and get a hold of that energy that's around them, right?
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
we do it. We might call it something different. We might look
Mhm.
at it a little bit different, but we do it.
Mhm.
Yeah. When you get sometimes you get stressed out, what do? You start taking deep breaths.
Mhm.
And so, and some of us have chants we do and so forth. All we're doing is just getting our energy back in alignment with getting
Mhm.
ourselves back in alignment with our energy.
Mhm.
And go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, and as far as the energy is concerned, right, we look at how the energy moves throughout relationships. So let's look at some of these other words that are here: um, friendship, partnership, companionship, ownership, leadership. Which one? I'll let you pick which one you want to take for those who are listening. If there's a certain word that you want us to focus on, go ahead and put it in the chat. So go ahead.
Yeah, come on, Sister Goodrich. Which one you want, Sister Goodrich? I'm gonna call on her.
We're going to call her out.
I'm gonna call her out. Yeah, Sister Goodrich. I'm gonna call you out. Come on, no, as Sister Goodrich is typing it in, I'm gonna say ownership. If she says something different, and we'll jump on
We'll
something new. I'm gonna,
transition.
yeah,
Okay.
we'll transition, Sister. Yeah, Sister Goodrich, I'm calling you out.
All right. Go ahead. Ownership. Why you picked that one?
I think all of them are very powerful, but ownership, depending on how you look at ownership, it
Mm-hmm.
could it could lift you up tremendously, or it could bury you.
Mm.
Because sometimes we try to control somebody getting ownership over it.
Mhm.
saying I have this is mine, that's mine, this is mine, that's mine, and as we do that, we put
Mm.
more of a responsibility on us,
Mm.
and sometimes we don't need that responsibility. Sometimes,
Mhm.
I'm gonna say this from a Christian perspective, or
Mhm.
sometimes God puts things in our hands to pass to someone else because
Mm.
we have a connection in that person, and that person will accept it much faster from us than from somebody else.
Mhm.
And so I find sometimes things come to me, and it's not for me to own it. It's for me to take it and pass it on to someone else,
Mhm.
because I could do it, and that person will accept that that thing, that blessing,
Mhm.
much faster from me, because we have a relation. I have a relationship with that
Mhm.
person already, and they will say,
Mhm.
"Oh, if a brother Emoja is giving this to me, it must be something special. Let me take a look at it."
Mhm.
So sometimes things in ownership, we have to be mindful. The ownership is not for us to keep. The ownership is for us to give.
To manage and navigate. So that's very interesting. So I just want to acknowledge Shay said friendship, and then Regina
So,
said LOL here. She said leadership is my choice at this moment. So I'm going to weave both of those together with
go
your
ahead, Doc.
statement.
Weave it.
All right, I'll get to weaving. So the fact that you mentioned that sometimes things come to you, right, to move through you to someone else, it can be because of the friendship that
Hmm.
you are to pass it and that person will receive it because of
Hmm.
the friendship. Um, it's also important, I know, with you and I, where we've talked about partnership, right? And we've even talked about leadership within the relationship. What aspects am I to take a lead in? What aspects are you to take a lead in? And these were conversations that we had very early on, which we weren't looking at societal norms. We were
Hmm.
looking at how we were spiritually led. So when you came to me and said, you're going to be in charge of the finances, for a lot of households that would have been seemed peculiar. Now, for me growing up, my mother was always managing the finances. You didn't know that when we were talking, and I just laughed because it was like that was common for my household, right? Because my mother, she was skilled in math and she could manage and navigate that space very well, which allowed my father to focus on the work that he was doing. Um, and so I think within relationships, it is very important that you and whoever you're in relationship with, that you have these types of conversations up front and then clarify where your growth areas are. Like, I know when you first said that to me, I was very nervous. I had been navigating and being a good steward, right? There's stewardship, there's another one, right? Being a good steward on my own, but now it was taking on the responsibility of the household and seeing what that looked like and felt like within me. And that wasn't something I was always happy about, because I was looking for, it was just like, oh, okay, he gonna take the lead on this one. And he was like, oh no, you driving this ship. And it was like, oh, come on. But learning how to balance that. Go ahead, what you thinking?
No, I'm listening to you. And for those who are listening, what you just said is that when you put some, like I tell you, you're in charge of the finance, does not mean that the other person step away from it,
Mm-hmm.
and that you're still there with that person. This is where the partnership comes in. Is that, but you're
Mm-hmm.
just saying, you know what? In a relationship, there are things one does better than the other, or one is more comfortable in doing than the other.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't mean the other cannot do it. It just
Mm-hmm.
means that there's things, and I think sometimes that's where people bumps head in a relationship. I
Mm-hmm.
think there are times you say, well, you know what? Since you do this so well,
Mhm.
Continue doing it and let me focus on this over here. But we
Mhm.
have a partnership here. We're in a
Mhm.
relationship. We're in a partnership. And
Mhm.
so we find out how can we make the relationship and the partnership stronger.
Mhm.
Okay. It's just like when you're in a canoe and you're rowing on a boat and you're rowing, everyone's rowing in the same direction, right? To
Mhm.
make it
Mhm.
make that ship or make that canoe go faster,
Yes.
that boat go faster.
Mhm.
I if there's two people there, I'm not sitting in your seat and you're not sitting in my seat, but we're still working together.
Yes.
If you're on the right side of that canoe and I'm on the left side of the canoe,
Mhm.
I'm gonna manage the left side. You're gonna manage the right side, and the
Mhm.
canoe's gonna go straight. But if I try to
Mhm.
do the right side from the left side and you try to do vice versa, that canoe's not gonna go too far. It's not gonna go
Mhm.
the right way, right? So when we talk about the ship
Mhm.
and we get together and say, listen, you over here and I'm over here. Let me manage this side and you manage that side. So
Right.
when we bring it together, we are awesome.
Right.
And I
Right.
think that's one thing for me. I think about that all the time. Is that
Yeah.
you do this so well, I'm gonna let you do it. And I do this
Mhm.
so well, I'm gonna do this. And so
That's
when we
right.
come together, we are awesome together.
Right. So there lies the partnership where we're saying for us, Edna saying that she has no volume. So she's trying to read our lips. So I'm gonna try to enunciate.
Mango, 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 mango. For those who are listening, that's a joke, a personal joke between Edna and I. Edna is my spiritual big. Let me say spiritual because I have only one biological sister. So Edna is my spiritual big sister family. So yeah,
Yes, and she is our nutritionist. If
nutrition. Hmm.
anybody is interested in getting rid of weight, she has an incredible Kaizen improvement program. It's called the KIP program that is designed to help you get rid of weight. And it's about changing what you're eating, but it's not eating less so much as it is about navigating what you're eating. So you can
Hmm.
definitely check her out at the Health Zone to learn more about what she has to offer. Um, so yeah, so back to the friendship and partnership, right? In a partnership, we have a goal, and it can be several goals, but we talk about what those goals are. And so in our relationship and our marital relationship, one of the things that you had said was that you wanted a teammate. And so for me, having been an athlete, having grown up with siblings, I know what it means to be on a team, and being a leadership coach, which teaches people how to build teams. This is something that I've been doing for a long time. So it was like, okay, for me, a teammate means that I'm working with someone to win, and we get clear on whatever that win is. Right. And so for me, for us, it was having a healthy relationship where we openly communicated with each other, where we made it clear what our needs and our wants and our desires were. And then we worked together in order to achieve those goals. And we had the check ins. How are we doing? How are we doing with communicating with each other? Where do we need to improve? What are we doing well? What aren't we doing well? Where do I need you to step up? And these were things that we openly had conversations about. And where are the challenges in meeting these particular needs? Because the goal was for us to be in partnership with each other. Again, fantastic individually. We could have navigated this world with just each other individually. But no, we decided to partner with each other. And so then, therefore, we had to get clear on what made a healthy partnership for us.
Hmm. Amen.
And it's different, right? For each couple, it's different. And that's the part that we have to realize, that now some of the components are the same: healthy communicate, effective communication, clarity, self-awareness, self-reflection, and
Mhm.
there's times where he's going, do you realize that you do this? No, I didn't realize that I did that. One of my things I say, do you realize that you do this often? And he's like,
Yeah. Mhm.
right.
Mhm. Do you realize you videotape your husband when he's not paying attention and put it on Instagram and social media? Do you realize you do that?
I do it a lot, y'all, and I get tickled every time I do it.
I had to shake my head because and we laugh about it, but the reality is this, and this is why
Have
our
y'all seen any of my videos where I video him and he's unaware? Go ahead. People ask me, they're like, does he really not know? I'll be like, y'all, he just don't know. He be
no,
so
and,
focused on
and,
what
and
he's
the
doing.
reason I no, the reason I don't know is because of our partnership we have together.
Mhm.
Is that when she's around, I could focus on just what I'm doing.
Yes.
And for someone who grew up in New York, and when you walk and you grow up in New York, me grow up in New York, your head is always on a swivel. You're always checking everything out. You're
Mhm.
like boom, boom, boom,
Mhm.
boom. And being a martial artist, so it's really good to have a partner that when she's around, I can just focus on what I'm doing because I
That's right.
trust her. She's my
That's
partner.
right.
So then she takes that and she uses it against me and she videotapes me. I'm like, oh yeah. I'm like then she videotaped me with all the dogs around and I look up and she has a camera, she's looking at me with a big old smile on her face. I'm like, really? Really? And if you see that videotape, you can see I really didn't know, but my head was down. I'm playing around the dogs and I look up and here's my partner videotaping me playing the dogs. And I'm like, oh, really? And I just leave her alone because it's just because we have a relationship that is comfortable to where we could do
Mhm.
silly stuff like that
Yes.
and laugh and then we could laugh at it, shake man, we could laugh at it later and stuff like that.
Yes.
And so when we look at that word ship
Mhm.
in these words, a
Mhm.
ship is built in a particular way. It takes a long time to build a ship. The engineers have to figure out how to do this and that, the
Mhm.
size of the ship, and how to bend the metal and do all these things to keep that ship afloat.
Yes.
And so when we look at a relationship, what how are you putting that time in to
Come on.
bend and put it together so
That's
your
right.
ship stays afloat?
That's
And
right.
it's not an easy thing. It's a very challenging
That's right.
thing because and for us, I'm from the Caribbean. I grew up in the Caribbean community, even though I grew up in New York, and she grew up in Philadelphia. And so
Mhm.
when we met, here I am. One of the things I think she did really well is that she came to St. Lucia with me several times. I think she was
Mhm.
just trying to check out where I was from. But it's those things that we bend and we were talking about the other day. The first time I met her dad, me and her dad hit it off right away and stuff like that
Mhm.
because as male energies, he knew to meet me. Really liked his daughter. I was really into his daughter, and that made him comfortable around me
Mhm.
and made
Mhm.
me comfortable around him. So
Mhm.
all these things was bending and building our ship.
Yes.
So now that we are where we are, people look at the relationship we have and they say, "Oh, you guys have a great relationship." Yeah, we do have a great relationship, but that came
Mhm.
from years of bending and molding
And building.
and time for there's times and she knows when I'm upset, I get quiet. I'd
Mhm.
rather not say anything than say something that's gonna make her really, and you can't take the words back once you say it, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
So I'd
Mhm.
rather not say anything than say something that's not gonna come out correct.
Right.
And then at that time I sit and I always tell I sit and wait for guidance from the Most High and how to approach certain things.
Mhm.
It might take me a day, 2 or 3 days to do it. you know,
Mhm. Mhm.
if I remember the Christian Bible, Jesus was in the desert for how many? For 40 days.
40
so,
days.
so thank God it hasn't taken me 40 days. God loves me. but but I was finding it's a time where me as a male, and I have to say as a black, it goes for any male, but for me as a black male, because there's a lot of things that affects me from the perspective, and then from being from the Caribbean, growing up in New York. She
Mhm.
didn't grow up in New York. She's not from the Caribbean, so I was
Mhm.
sometimes even now with our foods, I still
Mhm.
like. She has gotten better with her spices. When I met her,
On
she
a
was a
scale of 1 to
she was
5, I was 0.
she was a 0 when I met her. Now she's like a 2.5, 3.
I'm about a
And
3. I'm about a 3.
so it's just like how we molded our lives together, understanding. I think the most important thing is understanding the differences and making
Mhm.
the differences a plus, not a minus. Some people say, "Oh,
Right.
the differences brings us
Right.
together," because that's what we say. Hey, that's something we could
Right.
talk about and see how we can
Right.
make it fit together. So I would say the
Right.
differences makes you stronger if you look at it from that
Mhm.
perspective.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And right, and I think that's it falls within the friendship space, right? You
Hmm.
wanted to, and that was the first level. So you and I knew each other for several months before we started dating. And it gave us an opportunity to really build that friendship. That friendship became our foundation before we then moved into a partnership type
Hmm.
space, and then understanding what the expectations were within the relationship. What were you looking for in a partnership? What was I looking for in a partnership? Right. And so being able to talk about that, because there were other people who were looking for different things that I wasn't interested in providing in a relationship. And I had to be self aware enough, and I had to be clear enough with them to let them know, no, I have no problem being on a friendship level with you. But that which you require in a relationship, a romantic relationship, that's not something I'm interested in. And that's not something I'm willing to provide. And so then, therefore, moving into a partnership with them was not an option for me.
Hey, is Edna still reading our lips?
Wait, I can only imagine what she's
So-
what she's making out.
oh
Now,
no.
I want to bring up this ownership one, and you mentioned it a little bit earlier, which I think is very important that we talk about. And this may not be a one and done conversation. We may have to come back with a part two, right? Because
Hmm?
all of these all of
What you
these
talking about,
words
Willis?
are very important. So with ownership, you said earlier, learning how to not get caught up in the that's mine, that's his, this is ours, competitiveness, right? Because there can be easily competition can enter into relationship dynamics. I've seen it with couples all the time. I remember one time somebody asked, is it better? Do you want peace or do you want to be right? And
Mm.
one person answered, I want to be right. Needless to say, that relationship didn't last. But they were
Mhm.
honest, right?
Yeah,
That's
they were
what
honest.
they were honest. That's what they wanted. And
Hmm.
so we gotta be careful. These are and that's another show, some of the traps that come within a relationship.
Oh,
And I would say,
another show.
competition is definitely one of those traps. So ownership,
Mm.
how do you balance that? Like that's mine. This is ours. How do you break through that?
You asking me?
I sure am,
Why you asking me?
because I'm still working
I
on it.
don't.
No, I'm just kidding.
I have no ownership over that. No, you know, I can only speak from. I'll speak from my perspective.
Mhm.
In a few weeks, I'll
Yeah,
be 62 years old, and
that's
I've been
right, in a
blessed.
few weeks.
I'll be 60. Yeah, and I'm truly blessed that God has been compassionate on me and guided
Mhm.
me through
That's
my
a
crazy
beautiful
years.
word. That's a beautiful
Yeah,
word.
yeah, I look at because that's guided me because there was times in my early years and those people who know me back when I was in my 20s, my early 20s and stuff like that, I just thought I was so good at getting over these things and taking care of business.
Mm.
And I think God was compassionate on me and let me take the kudos. But as I've gotten old, I realized I was being guided by the Most High, and
Mhm.
God had plans for me, my life.
Mhm.
And now that I'm older, I understand that. My relationship with my younger brother was always important to me, and so now that we are talking again, because he lives in the West Coast, I live on the East Coast and stuff like that, and then our lives just took us. So the ownership is like, for me, is like, where do you stand and say, I take ownership over this,
Hmm.
but I'm not taking possession over
Hmm.
it. Okay.
Hmm.
Because when you say you're taking ownership, that means you're going to stand up and do what needs to be done. It's like you're taking a step forward to be the leader in certain things,
Mhm. Mhm.
but the possession you're still sharing with your
Mm.
partner.
Mm.
Okay. And I
You
think,
know,
like, for example, go ahead.
I was just going to say when you said that, initially I was thinking ownership, like for instance, let's take this mug, right? This is my mug, right? I was thinking ownership this way. But
Hmm.
just when you just started talking about your brother, it made me think about ownership of your actions,
Hmm.
right? And that's another part of ownership. We call that accountability and responsibility, taking
Hmm.
ownership. So that's all. I didn't want to lose that moment because that becomes very important in a relationship as well. Because I know, again, having worked with marriages and couples and so forth. And even just families, siblings, there's the frustration of people not taking ownership of their actions. But go
Hmm.
ahead, you were going to say something else.
No, so I, th- I think um, we as human beings need to define the energy of ownership,
Mm,
and
mhm,
and then once we define it, then I think we could dissect it and we could
mhm,
embrace it. Because
mhm,
sometimes we say, "Oh, that's mine,"
mhm,
and the way we say it um, puts our partner in an unpleasant place.
mhm,
Okay.
mhm.
Um, for example, I'll use us as an example.
Okay.
My son is from my previous marriage.
Mhm,
Okay.
mhm,
And so now he has a son.
mhm,
And one of consciously, I did not take ownership of the word grandparent.
mhm,
I made sure I shared it with you
mhm,
because I wanted to make sure the universe, the people around us, and everything understood that for me, I am giving the ownership of that word to us.
mhm, mhm.
So I would say, some people say, that legally, the government would say you're his stepmother, step grandmother, right?
Uh-huh. Mhm,
And I was like, in my understanding where I work, where I move spiritually, there ain't no step.
mhm,
So I say, you are his grandmother,
mhm,
and I send a message to my son's mother, who's also remarried. I said, please tell your, I told my son, please tell Nick that he is a grandfather. He's not a step, there ain't no step here.
mhm,
And I gave my son that message for him because I
mhm,
felt I had to take ownership of that energy of the word
mhm,
and make sure we control how it is used around this
mhm,
baby, around our
mhm,
grandchild.
mhm.
And so when we talk about ownership, ownership doesn't mean we're keeping it to ourselves.
That one right there.
Yeah, that one right there, Zaire. Yeah.
Mhm,
And so ownership does not mean you're keeping it to yourself. Ownership means you're embracing that energy and you're controlling the energy and making sure that energy works for you and
mhm,
your partner and the people within around you. Okay.
mhm,
And I think that's very important that we have to understand these words have energy to them.
mhm,
And we have to make sure we understand that energy and how do we use it
mhm,
to make our lives better, make our partnership better, stronger,
mhm,
and make our relationship better.
mhm.
And when
Yeah.
we don't do that, I think it puts us in an unpleasant, uncomfortable place, and then things happen.
Yeah. And that's why I wanted to highlight these words because a lot of times when we're thinking about relationships, right, we're thinking about words like intimacy, we're thinking about vulnerability, we're thinking about trust, and all of that is very important. I'm not saying that they aren't important characteristics within a relationship, but we also got to look at these other pieces, like friendship,
Mhm,
right? Because when it comes down to it, when you're friends with someone, there's certain things that you're not going to do, right?
mhm,
You're not going to disrespect your friends. You're not going to take them for granted. And so there are times within the relationship where the romantic piece may not be there, but the
mhm,
friendship piece is there. All right. And we have to raise that part up. The partnership piece is
mhm.
there. And we raise that part. The companionship. Now, we haven't talked much about that. The companionship. I know there's times where I just like being around him. And
Around
so
who?
around you, big
Really?
boy.
Ooh. Well, this is going. I like where this is going. Yeah, baby. Talk to me, Doc.
I know they are shaking their head like, oh my goodness.
Hey, you guys ever
Right.
see a black woman blush? Look at her. Woo! Not to interrupt you, Doc, but
Go ahead. Go
those
ahead.
who are listening to us and watching us right now, this is what a relationship does when it's molded correctly. We could laugh and we could giggle and we could do
Hmm.
say silly things like that because our relationship is where it is. It has
That's
been
right.
molded, and we have molded, and we have, I think, kept not think we have both have kept God first in everything we do.
Hmm.
And I
Hmm.
say this to her all the time. I say, I'm not here to serve you, and you're not here to serve me.
Hmm.
I'm here to assist you, and you are here to
Hmm.
assist me in the mission that God has sent me here to do. And I'm here to
Hmm.
assist you in the mission that God has sent you here. You're
Hmm.
not pleased. I don't ever want her to think that she's serving me, and I don't serve her.
Hmm.
Or just one entity I serve is the Most High. That's it.
Hmm. Hmm. Real talk. And so companionship,
Hmm.
right? It's that knowing that someone is there to ride along with you, right? We talk about traveling. I've been taking care of my parents for years now, and I used to go shopping for them
Hmm.
when we
Hmm.
first started dating,
And she had me
right?
carry the heavy stuff in.
And right, and sometimes I would just ask you to just ride with me, right?
Hmm.
It's just that companionship. And it wasn't that we were talking, it wasn't that we were going to go out to dinner or anything like that. It was just being able to spend that time together, to
Hmm.
be in the car for those minutes, which really, I had to go to so many different places to get all of their needs met. Um, but it was building that companionship. When we talk about driving, we used to go to Tennessee every summer to do one of your events, and we would choose to drive. Yes, we
Hmm.
could have flown down, but we opted to drive and do the 11 hours because it gave us time in the car together, just
Hmm.
isolated time. And again, it's not that we were always having conversations as much, but it was quality time. Go ahead.
Hmm. No, it's. I'm glad you said that. The relationship, the companionship,
Hmm.
excuse me, does not mean I had to be up under you and you had to be up under me. It's just that the energy of the two of us, just letting the energy be in the space together.
Hmm. Hmm.
And when we were driving to Tennessee, times I was fast asleep in the car and vice versa. You were fast asleep when I was driving sometimes.
I
Eh,
got video of that, y'all. I got video of that. No, I'm
Oh
just kidding.
God.
Go ahead.
Thank God she did. Oh yeah. And so and so when we look at the companionship, once again, we need to define the energy around that word.
Mhm. Mhm.
Sometimes, many times, some of us, we don't define the energy. We let the energy define us, and that's a dangerous thing.
And let me say
We,
this. So
mhm,
companionship, just looking it up real quick. What it says, what does companionship in a relationship mean? It says companionship in a relationship means that you like to be in the company of your partner.
mhm,
All right. So that's one of the biggest things. I knew that I really liked you when I when I enjoyed being with you as much as I enjoyed being by myself
Mm.
because I really enjoyed being by myself and just chilling and watching whatever I wanted to watch, even if it was just sitting in silence, right? I enjoy that. I still enjoy that to this day. But when we started dating, I realized, wait a minute, I enjoy doing that with him. And, sometimes we would sit on the couch and there would be nothing playing. We wouldn't be talking. We would just be
I'll
sitting
be
there.
sleeping.
Yeah, that's what we do. That's it. This sleep stuff. So y'all, when y'all see these pictures of me taking video of him sleep, it all started because he would tell me that he wasn't asleep, and I was like, "Oh, I know how to prove to him." And then it just became a
No, no,
cycle.
no, no. Okay, no, no. Let's be real here. Okay,
Yeah,
there
that
was
is
time.
real. Go
There,
ahead.
there was times when we were when we had committed ourselves to each other, and I had a long week.
Yes,
We all had, and I used to come in and I used to sit by her, and within 5 minutes I was sleeping.
out.
I was out.
He would tell me my
And
voice
she
was
doesn't
so
understand the
soothing in
reason I
my
was out
presence.
so hard because I was so comfortable around her. I used to tell her, I
Mhm.
said, I'm so comfortable around her.
Yes.
That's why, because if for me as a male energy, if we're not comfortable someplace, we usually don't go to sleep, hard sleep.
Mhm. Mhm.
We might go into a light sleep, and as soon as the person moves, we jump up.
Mhm.
So to be in a relationship with someone and then be able to completely relax and go to sleep is
Yes.
something that in that companionship gives that to you. And
Yeah.
those who are listening to me who understand that, mostly we guys, mostly men, because
Mhm.
we always like being on
You're
the
on alert.
being on alert,
Mhm.
and so when we have the opportunity just to exhale and put all the guards down because the
Mhm.
person you're with is has given you that energy, that space, that
Mhm.
companionship to where you could exhale and just
Mhm.
lay it out. You're
Mhm.
like, ah,
And it's real. And I recognize that and I considered it honestly a high compliment because it is for people to be able to relax and know that they're taken care of and know that they can put their guard down is very important. It's very and that's right. That's part of the relationship piece as well. You want to feel that sense of comfort and protection. And that's why even when I do post the silly videos of me capturing you, and I do that also because you are a photographer, you are a videographer, you're always behind the camera. And a lot of times you're not in the pictures. And so it's like, here's an opportunity to capture you doing the things that you love and um, to create, what do I want to say, documentation, right, about you because you're so busy documenting everybody else's experience.
mhm,
And so again, just to go back to reiterate the importance of comfort, when you enter into relationships, it is important that you do have that sense of comfort and that sense of peace. And this is in your friendships, in your partnerships, in your companionships. It's a very important process and a very important aspect of the relationship.
mhm,
Well,
yeah,
Brother Moja, we have about 2 minutes left. I know we could continue to go on. I know someone had asked me one time
nope.
about leadership within relationships. I know I spoke to it a little bit here, but I think it is something that we should talk about again because many times people have a perception of what leadership looks like in a relationship. And the reality may look very different than what you imagined in your head. Is there
Mhm.
anything you want to say about that before we close out for
I,
tonight?
as you said, that one thing I think about is like the president of the United States, whoever the
Okay.
president is.
Mhm.
Okay, when the person is elected as president, they put a cabinet around them.
Mhm.
Okay, and so when they come out and speak, that cabinet gives them the information they need
Mhm.
to um to say hopefully the correct things or what needs to be said or what needs to be done. So
Yes.
when you talk about leadership and you talk about the leadership, yeah, you have he or she's a great leader. What
Mhm.
makes that person a great leader is because they have surrounded themselves with people who could assist them, and they trust those people to
Yes.
help them make the proper decisions so
Mhm.
things can move forward correctly.
Mhm.
And so, as we look at that word, we have to understand it's not we don't we don't take full ownership of it. We take
Mhm.
it in, but we share it out.
Mhm. Mhm.
And that's what's make a good leader. A leader knows how to share it out. So that way,
Yeah.
let the people around you who you brought in to do the work, let them do what they do well.
Yeah, I'm so glad that you said that. One of the things when I work with my leaders, it's that being a leader is that you help develop people. And so I think there is within a relationship, we are developing each other, right? We're committed to each other to help us each be the best versions, in my words, the greatest
Hmm.
versions of ourselves. And
Hmm.
so I do this in my friendships, I do this in my partnerships, right? I take ownership of that skill that I have and I say, okay, look, do you recognize this quality within yourself? What is the goal? How do you get there? And then we work together because we become accountability partners. So
Hmm.
this is also how one becomes a leader within the relationship. I don't think it is just one person. I think it is both of us. I think it's both of us
Hmm.
leading within the relationship.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's what makes it work because as adults, we all have our stuff we bring
Yep,
into a relationship. And so we need to unpack those bags and see what needs to be put on the left side, what needs to be put on the right side, and what needs to be put in the garbage, what needs to be
that's
put back
right.
in the bag.
That's right.
And I'll be real about it because if you want a great relationship with the person, you don't want to bring things in that you didn't like in the first place and you still bring it in.
That's right.
You bring it in, so it's not you're going to get the same results. Like I say, if you keep doing the same thing, you're going to keep getting the same results.
Hmm.
And so you have to be mindful and conscious and look to make changes,
Yeah.
or make adjustments
Make adjustments as needed.
to what needs to be done. Yep.
Yeah. Well, we hope that you have gotten some strategies, some tools, and some laughs, as Edna sure has. She said, or he's bopping his head. That's right.
Who's
He's either
bopping? Who's bopping his head?
you, because
Ah,
one of the videos I posted where you were bopping and I caught you.
oh, really? Oh, God. Okay. Ah, yeah,
So,
yeah.
yes. All right, y'all. Well, we thank you for joining us. For those that don't know, and for those that do, I am the author of The Adventures of Froggy T and Bunny, a hip hop tale. I am the self proclaimed number one adult children's book author throughout all multiverses. And it is holiday time. So these are great gifts for your loved ones of all ages. I definitely say 5 on up, but you can get them at any age. So there's the reunion, there's Bunny Gets Bullied, there's the latest one, Froggy Fu and Mungu. And last but not least, there's Feeling Feelings. The other set of books will be coming out next year, but you can definitely check these out. I also have fantastic mugs that my husband made, and tumblers, and a blanket. All my goodies are not right here, arm's length away. I have to remember to bring them down next
Yeah.
time. So, fidget spinners. What else, babe? What else have you made me?
Luggage tags.
Luggage tags. Yes. Yes.
Hmm.
This is what we're talking about support, right? Partnership. So, but you can get all the books on Amazon. I also have Live by the Spirit and The Greatest Soul Journey. And again, talking about partnership, Edmund, you did this cover for me.
Yeah, I was feeling myself that day.
Yes. Yes. Hilarious. All right, y'all. So tomorrow I will be on with the Planner's Knowledge pop up podcast with author Stacy Woodson at 2 p.m. So if you can join us, be sure to come right on back here to Ask Dr. Walls 525 on YouTube. Please be sure to click subscribe and the little bell so you can get the notifications. I'm excited. She does children's books and she does it about healthy eating. So I'm super excited for her. Edna, I know you'll get a great enjoyment out of that and see what she's doing. That's something maybe we can work with Edna on writing children's books about healthy eating. So I know
Oh
she's
boy.
saying, ay, yeah, yeah, something else. And Edna actually has a great journal that's on Amazon right now for 2024. It's a planner with budgeting and eating and just really guiding you. So, and you definitely check out Edna Warren on Amazon and you can look at and get her journal. All right. So until we meet again, as always, God bless. Continue to live your greatest life and remember that we are stronger together.
Together.
Yes. All right. See y'all later. See you
Hasta
soon.
la
Good
vista.
night.
Good night.